This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Morgan, Content Director for Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today we're talking with Kurt Westphal, Director of Program Development at HDA Truck Pride. Kurt, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
So you've got a new national accounts program here that you announced recently, and you're working with TreviPay for the HDA Truck Pride Fuse National Accounts Program. What's the big takeaway from this announcement for fleet managers?
So this gives fleets the opportunity to have credit at all of our service locations and parts locations across the nation, which is over 500 service locations and over 900 total locations around there. So it gives them the ability to go and connect with people that maybe they haven't thought of or seen outside of their normal realm of places that they would go. Inside of that, it also gives them the opportunity to put purchasing controls into place and integrate their software platform into TreviPay's platform. So all of the invoicing can get into their business systems faster when we're doing those integrations. And that's why it's so good to partner with TreviPay, because they already have that existing platform set there to make those integrations.
Very good. And that wide availability of parts there too. You know, when you put out the news here recently, you specifically called out those small and mid-sized fleets. How does this program address their specific challenges?
So a lot of our network is built up of aftermarket parts providers and service providers, where they are already working with the small to mid-sized fleets that are sometimes the second owner of the truck or the second owner of that piece of equipment. So when they are looking for somebody and they're in an area where they're unfamiliar with, they a lot of times tend to go and look at the bigger OE places because those are the ones that are familiar names to them. This gives them the opportunity to find these other aftermarket shops that they're already working with in their normal local areas, but they might not realize that they're sitting right there in this town where they're broken down or they need help in there. So it really helps them find other places to go where, you know, their name might not be known as well, and get that get their truck or trailer into the shop to be worked on.
Right, it kind of connects those more personal relationships they have on their home base and their parts supplier there, and gives probably, I imagine, the parts supplier on the other side visibility into what that fleet is doing with HDA Truck Pride members and just how they've experienced those relationships over time as well.
Exactly.
So you mentioned invoices, and one of the cool things that your news mentioned as well was a 90% improvement in invoice accuracy. Can you tell me more about that? How is that measured, and what does that mean to the fleet?
So that number actually comes from TreviPay. And what that number means is the fleets have the ability to put purchasing controls into our system. So if they need to have a specific PO, if that PO has to be done in a certain way, if they need to have an odometer reading or something of that nature into there, they can put those controls into place, and we cannot invoice if those are not done correctly. So it won't allow us to invoice it until we have the correct information in there. We also are able to connect or service gate our members, our service providers for Fuse to TreviPay's network. So when they hit invoice inside of their business system, it automatically service gates directly into TreviPay's invoicing system. So as that goes through the process, that eliminates all those extra double key entering into the service portal and all of that. So that keeps the accuracy in a much better way. And then it also, with TreviPay having that integration also between them and the fleets, that's an option that the fleet can decide to do, where everything is done electronically and passes through. So that way it's more accurate. It's less people touching that process and less keystrokes done to where it's more accurate in how they're receiving the invoice.
You know, I think one of the coolest things here and what you're speaking to a lot of is that kind of, can we say digitization? Is that a word? Maybe I just made that up. But of the aftermarket relationship, right, which the aftermarket and service relationship, as you noted earlier, very much still kind of a very handshake, personal relationship in a lot of regards, especially on those small to mid-sized fleets. If we step back for a moment, and from your view, looking at the landscape of the aftermarket and the parts supply industry, how are both the HDA Truck Pride members and fleets reacting to this kind of digital world that they're living in now? Are they embracing it? Is it a learning curve that they have to overcome? What's your view of it?
So there is a lot of the aftermarket side that is really embracing the digitization, I think is the word you just used.
I made it up. It's true.
They're embracing it, but we have some other guys that are definitely not the early adapters that are waiting to see how this is all playing out. But we are seeing more and more people integrating all the different softwares, the AI that's available into their platforms, and it's really improving what we can do as a whole with our industry.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, just being able to connect to those other HDA Truck Pride members that I didn't even know were out there as a fleet through the new system. And the other thing is that I really appreciated how you called out the small and mid-sized fleets, right? Because when you say national accounts program, often there's like a fleet size that you have to be or a customer size you have to be. And creating a program that kind of speaks to fleets that really need to leverage this, I thought was very interesting.
And we're not just limiting it to the small to mid-sized fleets, but we feel like that's the target that we will best fit for this. But I think there's things that we offer that'll help the larger fleets. But I think we fit a very good small to mid-sized fleet very well in what we're going to be able to offer.
Very good, Kurt. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I learned a ton. I'm sure we'll talk to you again very soon.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk.